Neurology. A huge and super complex subject that every healthcare professional has to study and has to know a lot. In my studies, which is chiropractic, it's probably the most important subject, and I'm for sure not an expert in neurology. I've only started, only had it for half a year. But I feel like so far it's gone quite well, and I've developed a strategy for how I studied to get good grades in my first year and how I will study neurology moving forward. So maybe it can help someone who is struggling a little bit with this complex subject. So, as always, with every single subject, I have some core principles for studying in general. High focus in short sessions, studying them directly in the morning, and being active while you are studying. Always, you can watch my other videos explaining them more detailed, but that's always the non-negotiables. And then, in my last video I spoke about anatomy, and neurology is quite different actually, in my opinion. Neurology is much more complicated and much more complex. Anatomy is quite basic, but it's the volume that makes it a difficult subject to learn. Neurology has the volume and the complexity. So neurology requires more understanding, and this has to change our approach a little bit and how we tackle it. When we need to understand stuff, this is the time where we can actually indulge in being passive a little bit. Where we can spend some time just absorbing information and seeing different explanations by different people. So I will spend a little bit more time watching things, reading things, or hearing it being explained to me by other people than with other subjects, as for example anatomy. This is because some of the concepts are not so clear for us in neurology. We cannot see it like in our own body, or we cannot feel it, or we cannot really understand it that well. It's like microscopic level, all this world, this universe of different things happens. So we need to take it in, absorb it, work with it, and create our own understanding from there. But as always, we can always start from the basics. Starting from the basics, adding details to that. If we cannot have any basics, we do not have anything to add new information to. So what are these most important basics in neurology? Well, certain things that come up all of the time. Like knowing the organization of the nervous system. Like the tree, knowing that we have the nervous system, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. What are those? What's the difference? Brain, spinal cord, central nervous system. Peripheral nervous system. We have a sensory and a motor group. From the motor, autonomic, somatic. We have this tree, we have these basics. We can add details into these different categories, and if we always know where we are in this tree, it's easier for us to understand it and see the whole big picture. Also different key structures and knowing them very, very well. For example, the thalamus. If you haven't studied neurology yet, maybe you don't know what it is, but it's kind of like a central hub deep in the brain. Like a main relay station where all the information goes and it gets relayed to different parts of the nervous system, different other parts. So if you know the thalamus, for example, and you know it very, very well, the different parts of the thalamus and what they do, you can know many different pathways, many different things that are linked to the thalamus. And because of the fact that everything is linked, you get a lot of information for free by just knowing this one key structure very well. Then you don't have to learn all of these pathways separately. You get it all in one package. That's one thing I would recommend. Drawing. Oh, this is super, super effective for neurology. Why? Because it turns complex things simple. In a neurology book, you can read a page and be like, what is this? What the hell is this? You don't understand anything. If you can get it down on paper in a simple drawing, it can make a lot of sense. In this drawing about the spinal cord, for example, these are all the parts of the spinal cord. I've done this drawing now so many times that it's super simple to me. It might look complicated to you, but when you just know it, it's just a couple of structures. But if you just read the words in a written paper, then you don't have any sense of it, and you cannot really understand. Also, while you draw, you are creating this mental picture in your mind that you can recall whenever you want. And it's very, very easy to remember and visualize it. And the way that it makes you stick in your mind is by drawing from scratch. As I say, always being active. So you don't copy a drawing from someone else. You make your own drawing on a blank piece of paper without looking at the text or without listening to anything. You read something, you read the information. From this information, from scratch, you make a new drawing yourself without getting any help. This way it will stick. And you can recall the information anytime you want by visualizing the drawing that you clearly have in your mind. So what can you draw? Well, everything. Even if you're not a good drawer, you can make simple drawings about how the brain is organized, the different pathways of the nervous system. Just arrows. One arrow to a name. This name is connected to another name, another structure, which is connected to the next thing. Different parts of the thalamus, different parts within the spinal cord. Just simple drawings like this that takes complex concepts and makes them simple. The way of getting this understanding of a very complex subject is to use different sources. You see, it might make sense when one person explains something and then another person explains it and you don't understand at all. So if you can get different people explaining something to you, explaining the same thing but in different ways, you start to create your own understanding. From this own understanding, you create your own way of explaining it and you explain it to someone else. This is once you understand it. So what I would do and what I will do moving forward is looking at many different YouTube videos of different channels explaining neurology, asking ChatGPT for its perspective, looking at different books, all of it, taking it all in on the same things, making my own understanding, my own explanation, and giving that to someone else. If you explain something to someone else, you are being very, very active with it. And this is when the connections in your brain are made and you actually form long-term memory. If you just use these different sources and use them passively without doing anything with it, it won't stick. You will just forget about it directly after. And also having a bit more patience with this. There is so much in neurology and it's so weird sometimes. And you don't understand at the beginning how everything is linked together. In anatomy, maybe you can understand it a bit more because you can see your body, you can see how everything works together. But with neurology, you really have to study the different parts separately. You need to study the physiology, the chemistry of neurology, neurotransmitters, how a synapse works, how the action potential works, but also the structures, the neuroanatomy. But they work together. You study them separately, and you trust that in the end everything will come together, because it will. When you gain more and more knowledge, you will start to link these pieces together. But in the beginning, you have to leave it as a blind journey and have the patience and the trust that you will get it in the end. So, starting from the basics, always being active, drawing things to make it more simple, review them over and over again until it sticks in your mind, using multiple sources to gain different perspectives, and then study all of these things separately and have the patience that it will all come together. That's what I have done so far, and it's what I will do moving forward as well. And I think it will really work. Taking a huge and complicated subject and getting good results in it in a simple and easy way.